Today, we are going to be ranking every season of Rick and Morty, including the anime that just came out. Season 8 comes out next year, so I thought it'd be fun or beneficial for everyone to know my overall thoughts on each season individually. Because what seems to happen, no matter what I say, people are not happy and ask for further context on my thoughts. This mostly happens because I called Season 7, out of all the seasons, the worst of them all. You guys, for sure, hated that. So with us having no new Rick and Morty content for the rest of the year to talk about, let's rank every season of Rick and Morty worst to best. Let's go. In dead last, the anime. Yeah, it's last. I don't like it. There is not one part I think that is redeemable. For reference, I did a Google spreadsheet for every single episode of the show and rated each one. Then calculated each season's average based on my own rating, and then paired that up with each individual score for IMDb, and then gave IMDb's average rating for the season. Each episode had notes and detailed stuff, just a lot of stuff. I did not do that for the anime because it sucks. I do not want to watch or talk about it all too much. If you want to hear my detailed thoughts on the first few episodes, watch my video on it. Just know, the gap between what is the next spot and is this is a valley so large, I don't even have a silly analogy to describe it. This is bad. It's below 3 out of 10 bad. Moving on. Yes, the real last place is still Season 7. Out of all the normal seasons of the show, this was still my least favorite. I titled my video last year, Season 7 is the worst season of Rick and Morty. And my god, in my rewatch, this stands out as still to be so damn true. To be absolutely clear, this isn't a horrible season of TV. Hopefully with this video you can see how highly I regard some of the other seasons. That when you have a season that is just okay, naturally, that will be near the bottom when comparing to genuinely some contenders of the best seasons of sitcoms ever, or just TV ever. To start off, Season 7 has some run-of-the-mill okay episodes in it, with the Jurek Trap or Air Force Wong, and then slightly better than those, That's a Morty. Morty's voice is still kinda grating and needing to get used to it. These episodes are around that 6 to 7 mark for reference. As CJ will have shown, when I name these episodes for the edit, he will have the scores. I think it was nice to see Unity come back, but I'm just kind of getting tired of the president by this point. I just think his shtick of being pathetic is getting stale, and yeah, by this point in the show, I don't really want to see him, and the therapist angle in this episode was not my favorite. These are what I consider a okay to good episodes. To the lows. Wet Court A Mortican Summer just isn't for me. This is the type of episode I'd give a 5. It's just average. I won't be able to go fully into each episode and review them. There is way too many episodes to do that, but I have given details and notes on each ep. If that is something you want to see, it'll be available on my Patreon, link down below. We can chat about it in our Discord too. Then we have the really lows of the season. How Poopy Got His Poop Back is genuinely a shit episode. Like, this episode sucked. I don't know what else to tell you. They then later in the season dish up an even worse episode. We have the literal worst episode of Rick and Morty in Rise of the Numbericons, the movie. I just hate it. I'm sorry, this is the most negative I'm going to be. I spent a bit in my Season 7 video discussing this already, but this is horrible. This is the only episode I gave a 1. Every other episode generally got detailed notes on things to take note of if I liked it or whatever. I only wrote on this, I hate it. That's it, with I think a small joke for flavor. This stands out as, yeah, whatever you guys thought you were cooking on this one, don't ever again. With most of the season done, the average rating per ep is really low already. Then out of nowhere, you have episodes 5 and 10 being genuine bangers, just absolute bangers, in Unmort Rickon and Fear No Mort, with Mort Ragnarok being decent too. Unmort Rickon is a terrific episode. It's when Rick's voice actor Ian Cardone really begins to shine. I have already discussed his massive step up in this episode in my Season 7 video, but to just retread here, he gives a performance that I just don't think we could have gotten out of Justin Roiland. Justin really, when looking at his work over 6 seasons, never did anything that really stood out to me as great voice work. Ian Cardoni in one season has already achieved this. Episode 5 is not the peak of the season, however. Fear No Mort, otherwise known as the whole episode, this is peak Rick and Morty. I don't know what else to tell you. My notes literally say, this is what I like to see. The average score for the season sits at a 6.1. But I don't do dot points when giving scores or when giving out ratings for movies or shows, so to me, this season was just okay, and that is a 6. So yet, this season is a 6 out of 10. For reference, I don't think modern Simpsons seasons would get near a 6 out of 10 for me, no matter how many Is It Good Again videos appear on my homepage. And for my rating system to just be clear, it isn't just math-based, because there are so many other factors to be involved in judging a whole season. Sometimes there are outliers to think of, such as the number episode. So I just try to judge how I feel overall, as well as having numerical data to show off a sense of how I felt. So just, yeah, a 6 out of 10. For people who are yelling at me, you'll see how close the apparently much worse seasons are and why they might not be lower for me. That brings us to a season that so many people tried telling me was so much worse, which was... The opening to season 5 is actually heat. Back-to-back episodes that I really think are fun. And I need to make a correction for the video I made a couple years ago. In that video, I was really harsh on the Planet Tina episode. I called it repetitive and just not for me. In my rewatch, I've come around and think the episode isn't that bad. Even good, you could say. This is what I loved about going back and rewatching the show over the last 2 weeks. Edit note, it's in the script that it's 2 weeks, but this video has taken way longer to make. However, we need to address the title of said video. Was it saved by its final few episodes? So the elephant in the room, that being episodes 3, 5, and 7 of that season. Rick Dependent Spray, Rick and Morty's the Thanksgiving episode, and Spectacular and Gotron's Jerry's Rick and Vangellium. Holy crap, these 2 titles suck. These episodes are disgustingly bad. On every level, Rick Dependent Spray is a bad idea. It's all hinged on a lie from Morty. This is something even the writers talked about.
This episode was tricky for a while. Dan didn't want to hinge an episode on a lie.
The episode starts with the heaviest amount of contrivance in the world.
The audience knows something that Rick doesn't, and Morty knows it, and we know that Morty knows it, and we know that Morty didn't tell Rick. Did many, many rewrites to try to work it so it's both their secret, and then it was just Rick's secret. I think it turned out disgusting and tasteless.
They never solved this. Isn't this meant to be more positive? If the writers can't even be positive, how are we meant to be? The following poor episodes aren't much better. The turkey ep, yep. Wow, I don't really need to elaborate, do I? I was like, oh, I'll pull out my notes for this episode, and all I wrote is, oh, I hated this episode. So, let's go back to what I titled the original video. Does it still hold up? That being, was Rick and Morty Season 5 saved by its finale? And oh boy, did I nail it! Episode 8 and 9 were great. I found the premises funny and engaging, while also developing Rick tenfold. And then we get to Rick and Murai Jack. It goes full anime. Rick just becomes Guts for a little bit, and I loved this. This episode is up there in overall peak Rick and Morty episodes. I adore this episode so much. I fucking love it. I don't know what else to say. It literally did so much. I think that the next 2 seasons kind of have to bear the front of when do we get more of this dialogue from fans? Like, that's how good this episode is. That just looms so large over season 6 and 7. We'll get to season 6, but season 7 had to answer those demands and kind of pay the price for a lot of people. It is really tough, balancing the nature of one-off funny episodes and the really riveting lore. With an average of 6.9, it's clear that the season is good. Just good. If I was to give it a score overall, it'd be a 7. With the 2 worst seasons out of the way, do people now see what I mean, or see why I had it in this order? Season 7 is just okay. Season 5 was good with some horrible episodes. Both seasons had their scores tanked hard. None of the other seasons really had that problem, hence why I don't even really consider them close to even the next tier of seasons. Alright, let's just get to the next season, which is Season 4's drop-off from the first 3 seasons is real, but it stands tall above Seasons 5 and 7. This season is defined by its peaks, that being episodes such as The Old Man in the Seat, and obviously that of Acid. When thinking of Rick and Morty and what it means to be a Rick and Morty episode, this is just it. And while not being in the top tier of episodes, they are so damn enjoyable. I have so many episodes that are just an 8 in this season. One Crew of the Crew's Morty, Never Ricking Morty, Prom Mortius, Children of Mort, Star Mort, Rick Turn of the Jiri. Just so many episodes that are just great episodes, with the only outlier being the Claw and Horderer special Rick Tim's Morty. This episode is straight ass. I'm sorry, it's very boring. It's the first bad episode in the entire show. It's the episode where Rick gives Morty a dragon, and throughout of the course of the episode, Morty begins to lose his interest in them. And there are tons of sex puns and jokes. I just didn't vibe with it at all. Overall, Season 4 is much more enjoyable than the previous entries, averaging a 7.6 on my scale, which yes, is lower than the average on IMDb by quite a bit, that being 8.36. I really think the season is great, so if I was to give it a score, it would be sitting closely to an 8 out of 10. There is one outlier here that drags the average down, and when putting that aside, it's a really consistent season that firmly sits below seasons 1 to 3, yet stands above the weaker ones, and to think this is in the 4th last spot and it's an 8 out of 10. I don't know how to really show that I am a fan of the show, guys. I'm not a hater, I swear. And Season 6, to be honest, is quite similar when rewatching. Now, I admit, my title back in the day was a little clickbait. As you can see, it being here on my list, no, this isn't the best season of Rick and Morty. However, after the disappointment of Season 5, this felt like it was kind of coming back to form. And when thinking about titling a video, I think I did an okay job not to go too far in the terms of clickbait. And again, I had like under 2k subs at this point. I was just trying hard to get any attention, so please, just let this slide. The big thing when looking at Season 6 is that there are genuinely no standout episodes that I would put into like the top tier of Rick and Morty episodes. There are no 10 out of 10 episodes here. The closest we get is Analyze Piss, which I still love this episode. I touched on it in my Season 6 video, but this episode somehow, while yes, being about piss, is absolutely just so emotional. Commentary on suicide and mental health is a really sensitive topic for me, so yeah, very quickly this could have been a negative blight on this season. Yet I come away going, this episode was hilarious and did so much growth for Rick. I do wish the ending had hit a little harder than paying off on a joke, with the family being mad at Rick for not internalizing the act he had to do. If it had doubled down on the hard messaging of Rick's sorrow a little better, I just think this would have been an insane emotional beat for where the character is at this point. The rest of the season is just, yeah, solid bloody episodes. Night Family's art direction still goes hard. I still find it disgusting and creepy, an amazing effort. Then bar Bethic Twin Instinct, everything is either at a rating of good or higher, with this season also averaging a 7.6, which I would grade an 8 out of 10. On the same tier as Season 4, with me giving this season the slight edge by not having a really bad episode thrown in. IMDb's average rating for this season, however, was an 8.03, which is rather interesting. Make do with that information as you will. We are now up to the exciting shit. My third spot is Season 1. I love Season 1. It is so much damn fun. Starting off with the strong pilot, the dialogue for the pilot is just so strong and does so much character work. It is such a smart episode, and to compare that to the anime's first episode, it just serves as a reminder how much of a shame that it was just the anime that was so poor. I do think Season 1 doesn't perfectly nail that iconic formula just yet. Episodes tend to be oh see, look at this, we are the Inception episode, or we are the Jurassic Park episode. Ooh-wee, then bam, you get M. Night Shyamalan Aliens.
Oh my god, Rick, how dumb are you? You're inside a simulation of a simulation inside Another giant simulation.
Sucker! You simulated my grandson's genitalia? You bunch of diabolical sons of bitches.
Let me get a picture. Oh, look at his face. He's trying to figure out if he's in a simulation still. Are you, Rick? Are you?
Like, just iconic. This episode is funny as fuck, man. To follow that up, it's then Meeseeks and Destroy. A top tier episode. Strength after strength. It was here that I saw why Rick and Morty caught on so quickly and got a fan base. The rest of the season has a ton of fire episodes. Rick Portion 9 is a classic, though I will need to touch on one aspect of this episode later. This episode leaves lasting effects on the entire show, while also being a parody of The Fly. Something Rick This Way comes, and close Rick counters of the Rick kind are genuine gems. I do think the commentary on the arselow used is rather, poignant, though You Pass Butter will be a joke I will always find funny. The real downfall of this season, really, is having one meh episode in it, Raising Gazorpazorp. Again, I will touch on the one aspect of this episode in a later section, and it's kind of a common theme here. Just this episode does not work for me. There weren't many laughs, and I found it more grating than anything. When I first watched this back when I was 13 or something, I remember loving this episode. So to go back and think it's mid hurts a little. At least it shows that season 1 isn't being carried by nostalgia, although I wished my feelings on just specifically this episode at least was the same. Alas, this is not the case. To finish talking about season 1, the real big shame is that the finale is arguably one of the weakest in the show's entire history, with Rixie business. Bird Person is introduced and Wubba Lubba Dub Dub gets its meaning and weight here, just the Titanic stuff wasn't all that funny. God damn it, there is also something in this episode that needs to be talked about. I'll score the season and move on and get back to it. With 2 episodes kind of being just okay to above average, the rest stands out as some of the best an animated sitcom can offer. I think this season is beyond great and is actually amazing. I'd say it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Like literally one subplot being not funny and one episode being like missing the mark isn't going to drag the entire season of 11 episodes down. Just banger. Absolute banger. Okay, before going any further, we need to talk about incest and how Rick and Morty has a fucking problem with it, while also touching on some other issues I found on my rewatch. I don't plan on this being very long, but when rewatching the show, I had expected some aspects of the show to have dated. Writing techniques or animation, like this show is over 10 years old now, it's not the new kid on the block. What is surprising is neither of those points were what I was like, struck by when going back. It's quite literally just the amount of times there's either incest, pedophilia, Morty is horny, and okay, I'll spare the details on that part.
I hate you and I was thinking about your friend Grace.
The problem is, on some occasions, such as Final Desmithation, which I gave an 8, where incest being disgusting is part of the joke, the imagery of Jerry doing everything he can to not sleep with his mother and his pants flying off is comedic gold. Yet how many times do we need to see Morty legit have to deal with the consequences because he is masturbated into the wrong thing, or he is horny and gets into a situation where he must confront this part of himself, with the punchline being just Morty is horny. It's just repetitive, and for a show that does actually have character growth, it only fuels the conversation and fire that this show is beginning to have flanderization for its characters and leads. Considering the show doesn't have the characters' age and loves to remind us that Morty is 14, I think it's more so the writers need to remember that yeah, he is 14 or he is a teenager. Let's try something other than teenager equal horny, now laugh now. I thought it'd be important to point this out because this isn't like a season specific thing. It's genuinely most seasons have an episode on incest, and as my notes have it, at least 7 episodes heavily feature it. Also, in Getting Older, some of the sexual humor, such as Jerry nearly getting SA'd in the finale of season 1, just feels crass. It doesn't really work for me at all, and I don't know, is it from a place of trying to find humor on such a sensitive topic? It wasn't bearing on the plot or development of characters, other than, look at how useless Jerry is. He was nearly SA'd by someone this pitiful. There's no lasting impact of these actions, and I thought I had to mention this because it's really poor and a weird way to end your season. Alright, moving on, this was just kind of prudent. Just needed to say this. Second on my list of the best seasons of Rick and Morty is season 2. Let me just get this out of the way. The lowest score I gave an episode this season was a 7, which was Interdimensional Cable 2. A 7. that is still a good score. And then to top that off, I only gave one more episode an 8, Big Trouble in Little Sanchez. The rest were totally amazing, unique, special, and downright hilarious, with Total Recall being my favorite of the season, scoring a 10. Like, even just looking at my spreadsheet of the episodes here, it's like we're looking at the 73 and 9 Warriors roster here. You got A Wrinkle in Time, Morty Night Run, Get Swifty, The Ricks Must Be Crazy, Look Who's Purging Now, Wedding Squanches. I feel like this is a joke. I nearly named every episode of the season. It's just gold. It's amazing. On IMDb, season 1 averaged an 8.58, and I gave it a 9 based on averaging around 8.27. I think season 1 is great. I love it. Season 2 is something else. Season 2 averaged 8.8 on my scale. IMDb had it at an 8.69. This is where I gotta just say, numbers are great and all, but don't really articulate the whole picture. Being able to consistently give an amazing time like this for a full 10 episode season is a feat of outstanding difficulty. Season 2 stands proud as something to really look at in wonder. For me, this season is a 10, and for any other show, it would be most likely, with the numbers it's repping, the best season in the show. Just absolute peak. But this is Rick and Morty, and this is not the best season. We all know the best season is season 3. Come on! Let's start with the low points. Episode 2 and episode 9. Rick Mancing the Stone and the ABCs of Beth are both just... yeah, sorry, these are great episodes still. Somehow, were the low points of the season, both scoring an 8. Which, if you're going to yell at me and that I'm overrating these episodes, IMDb gave episode 2 an 8.1 and the ABCs a 7.9, which is a swing of 0.1 either way. But let's be fucking for real. This is one of the best seasons of TV. Comedies are often not put near the same levels as other genres. And sure, peak seasons of Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, and Attack on Titan for sure take up most spots in the top seasons of all time. But this season on rewatch felt special. Like right now, I'm looking at my notes, and I don't know what else to say. I feel as if half of my humor in my life is revolved around these bits. I'm gonna rapid fire through some of these, ready? These are just what I've written down, and they're just the stuff that I felt like was worth noting. Mulan Szechuan sauce. Look at me, I'm a pickle. Morty, Pickle Rick. Is this game popular with autistic people? Because I'm starting to love it. 20-minute adventure, Morty. I've just discovered, actually, no, CJ, just roll that fucking clip.
Guess who just discovered a new element? You think you could do that, Morty? Do you think if God existed, he could do it? The answer is no. If God exists, it's f***ing me.
The entire thing is great. Peak. One of my favorite Rick monologues. Like, come on! These one-liners alone have had more cultural impact than most shows could dream of doing in their entire runs. This season has had 3 10 out of 10 episodes. The Rick Shank Redemption might just be the best episode of Rick and Morty, and the most iconic. It kills me that not every episode can be this good. The character development is amazing. The humor is generational. Pickle Rick is also a 10 out of 10 episode. It shaped brain rot for an era of meme culture. Before there was Lobotomy Kaizen, there was this.
Where's my Szechuan sauce? I'm Pickle Rick! What was on the dump? Rick!
And actually, no, I don't think Rick Shank is the best. It has to be Rick Lantis Mix-Up, even with this line thrown in.
I wish incest porn had a more mainstream appeal.
Now, this episode alone could entail a full 30-minute plus essay on just how peak Rick and Morty it is. More than that, this is one of my favorite episodes in TV ever. It would certainly be in the top, oh man, at least 30 of all time. That isn't a list I've fully planned out in my head, but when I'm thinking of peak episodes of all time, it has to be in the conversation. For positives, I don't know what else to say. You knew this was coming. Every single time when writing a script, I turn my head and look at my notes and I get flabbergasted. I get flashbanged with an episode title and with a rush of memories of my rewatch. For this part of the script, when I was writing, and this is why I wrote this section, it was Morty's mind blowers that came to mind. Even Vindicators 3, I really like this episode. I know Dan hates it, but the concept in itself just allows the humor to flourish. Any cons for the season? I just wish the finale had hit a little harder, as something like Rick and Mirai Jack or Fear No Mort had. I know, like, no shit, Charles, you'd rather a 10 out of 10 episode than a 9. But with how these episodes are such poignant endings, I just think for a season so impactful, while there are iconic moments, I just think the plot could have tied up with a little more polish. Insane to think, for an entire season, my few comments on it are some episodes are only 8 out of 10, and the last episode isn't a top 5 of all time in the show. Like, fuck me, right? Alright, so let's be clear. This season is a 10 out of 10. One of the best of all time. It's an average of literally 9.1 for me, with IMDb coming in at an 8.71. I thought it would be good to compare what rankings you guys have voted for in the community section poll that I had, and what the average was for IMDb to what I have. IMDb had it as seasons 3, 2, 1, 4, 6, 5, 7. Then the anime, which, yeah, okay, that's separate. Basically, the exact same as mine, bar one change. And for you guys, you can only vote for 5 options, and I discounted seasons 1 to 3 because we know they're the top. Just for argument's sake, I wanted to see what you guys would select as your favorite, and see how many people voted for which season. The results are Season 4 is your guys' next favorite season. Now, before I reveal the rest, for all the mean comments I got underneath all my Rick and Morty videos, with even my editor, CJ, ratioing me in the comments, you voted for Season 4 to be, yes, the next best season. Then, Season 7! Nah. This can't be right. This is fucked. This is whatever. You guys still, months and months later, disagree. Season 7, obviously, has its defenders. Though, there is just one problem. A further and equal percentage of you voted the anime. So for all of you guys shitting on me for my Season 7 video, just know the anime enjoyers are on your team. And for me, that is good enough. So that is my ranking of all the seasons of Rick and Morty. In the comments, I really want to hear your rankings with your reasonings. Make sure to join our Discord too, where we talk about all things Rick and Morty, exactly like this stuff, as well as comic book stuff and anime, whatever it be, with the rest of the DTE community. Other than that, I just have to thank my patrons. In the top mate tier, we have Nick. In the great mate tier, we have CJ and Colin, and for the good mate tier, we have Jadu Sable. Please make sure to follow the link in the description down below to check out the exclusive data, which was, yeah, my spreadsheet on every episode I used to make this video. Alright, I'm tired, peace out, bye.